Recording has started. Okay, say it again. Candidates, please raise your hands for if one of you has an opening statement. And I will try not to take too much. All right.
Oh, good evening.
Oops. Sorry. Say again.
Good evening. What do I get? Like 2 or 3 minutes? What's the
3 minutes.
super? I'm Schultz, running for chair. I've been around Lentz for quite some time. I've been an agitator in the past to the actions of the board that I thought were immoral or unethical or just treating people poorly. I think ethical operation of the board is incredibly important. I think oftentimes people join the neighborhood association without understanding that it is a nonprofit and there are ethical considerations, fiduciary obligations to operating a nonprofit organization. I'd like to see the changes to the bylaws that were excuse me, that were discussed and a robust engagement effort made and then utterly tossed to the side, enacted, to pull those and assess if they're current enough or if they need some adjustments in a community oriented fashion and change the bylaws. I think the bylaws restrict the ability of the neighborhood association to really respond well to certain situations. I think outreach needs to be a huge priority. We went from 5 years ago, where we had 220 people at an election, to this last cycle where the board walked away and said nobody was interested, and then interested parties had no ability to come together. And that's really about outreach, and it's about a board that has again, ethical operation and wants to see more people involved. And I think recognition is a big issue as well. We need to recognize neighbors. We need to recognize when they come to a neighborhood association, they're oftentimes frustrated and looking for answers or direction or an action. And I think we could be a better landing pad. In my past time on the board, there was a role of chair to kind of take charge, and nothing could happen if the chair didn't say it was okay. And that history, it goes back to the last 4 chairs. I don't see being a chair as that. I think the chair is just one of the facilitators to help make things move forward, and is a person that takes some accountability for, excuse me, for tasks, right? Hey, we as a board want to book a speaker. Okay,
1 minute.
I can go book that speaker. And I think it's an important element that's been ignored a lot. I think collaboration is key. I think that it shouldn't be one person doing everything, and that's what's happened in the past. The chair has been left to do everything, or has taken charge of everything, excluding others. And I think both those things can change if we just have a different type of leadership. And finally, they say, if you don't like how somebody's doing it, do it yourself. I'm here to do it myself and to take on the role, which differs from that as a community member to that as the chair of an organization, and to be accountable to that role. So that's me. I'm Schultz. I live over near Lentz Park, and anybody can chat with me anytime. I have an open door to talking to folks.
All right. Topher, should we move on to Joanna?
Hello, I'm Joanna. I'm running for vice chair. I'm here to rebuild this association. When I first moved to Lentz in 2016, the neighborhood association was fairly active. They did a lot of cleanups and other things. And it hasn't been that way for a while. And I know that in this neighborhood, people usual. Overall, I provide and a connection to the community and the city, and also provide a voice for the residents here. And I think this neighborhood has been forgotten over the past few years, and I want to use my skills to help unite the neighbors of Lentz, and also create a way for people to communicate their frustrations to the city, and also communicate, volunteer, and have more community in general. in this neighborhood. So that's why I am running for vice chair. I'm here and I'm hoping to provide that and as well as support the rest of the association. Thank you.
No, there's Nancy. Oh, sorry, Nancy.
All right, do we have any of the other candidates?
Can
want
you
to,
hear me now?
Yeah,
Can you-
sorry,
yeah.
Nancy.
Okay, that's all right. Hi, I'm Nancy Keating and I'm running for the secretary. What I would like to see is much more clean and concise emails that have a subject line that says what the meeting is going to be about and that is edited. Also clean and concise minutes. But I also feel that Lentz needs a new board, some members that help the community and get over the problems they've had before and actually do something. Because so far, all I hear is a lot of infighting. And it would be great if we just could get over that and try to get something done. And that's what I have to offer. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Topher, want to go ahead and get Ken? Ken?
All right, go ahead, Ken. Where did I lose you? No, there you are.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, good. My name's Ken Luchini. I'm running for treasurer for Lentz Neighborhood Association. And I'd like to resume the monthly treasurer's statement. And also, as a board member, I'd like to see a code of conduct signed by all the board members, as well as a conflict of interest form filled out, and then move on to working on people with the bylaws to get the bylaws revision done so the neighborhood association will work better for everyone. And then have listening sessions as a board, have listening sessions of the membership to see what the membership wants the board to do, considering all the different issues that are occurring now in Lentz. And essentially, that's my statement.
All right, thank you, Ken. Jessica, did you want to make a statement? I'm not sure if you were in the meeting when we
Hi,
discussed
sorry,
what we
I
did.
was just trying to raise my hand so I could unmute myself. I appreciate that. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Fantastic. So hi, I'm Jessica Ward. I am running for board. I am interested in advocating on behalf of the people of the Lentz neighborhood as far as residents, business owners, and people who come into the neighborhood to patronize the businesses and the parks and recreation things that we have available. I'm looking to champion the Lentz Neighborhood Association needs and advocate to our higher ups within the city of Portland, and do so from an apolitical standpoint. I'm not here to debate politics. I completely agree with some of the sentiments that have been put out there about the infighting. I don't know a lot about what was previously going on with the Lentz Neighborhood Associations. Don't necessarily want to or need to. Just want to kind of keep moving the train full steam ahead and get things done. So I've got a can-do attitude, and I'm looking forward to collaborating with other people in the Lentz Neighborhood Association, whether it's on the board or just people patronizing the meetings to just get things done. And that's what I've got to say.
All right, Jessica, and which seat you're running for? You're running for chair?
I said chair. Yeah.
Sure. Okay, sorry, I didn't hear you.
Okay.
Gotcha.
It's
Okay.
also listed on the, it should be listed Hopefully
It is
it's
listed
listed.
it is listed on there.
Hopefully it's
I
written
lose- I
down
lose track.
somewhere.
I lose track of things pretty quickly. So anyways. All righty, and I guess we'll just open up to all the members that are joined to people who have questions. Any questions for the candidates?
Mary,
Hello.
who's your question to, Mary?
My name is Mary Oxford and I'm running for land use. I was waiting to be asked to give my statement. I'm running for land use for the Lentz Neighborhood Association. I would like to let the community know what's happening in their community and when it's happening. I'd like to let them know, help the neighbors who need help around with projects that they're doing. I would like to have projects in the community. And I think that we just need to keep moving forward and have the neighborhood association be active for the community of Lentz. And that's my statement.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mary. All right. Sean Weaver has a question. And reminder, you can also please do use the raise hand function to, we are watching for that, to ask a question as well.
Sure.
Char has her hand raised.
Go ahead, Char.
Can people hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I just wondered if anyone running for a board seat for the neighborhood association is going to speak up about the Safe Rest Village or the homeless issue we have in Lentz.
Okay, it looks like Schultz wants to respond to that.
Thank you for the question, Shar. The Safe Rest Village, for those that don't know, down on Reedway, there was a lot that the city used for a lot of the earth when they expanded Johnson Creek, and it settled and had toxins and things, and they finally moved it out of the way. They presumed to put I'm sorry to call it a homeless camp, but in their first iteration, that's basically what they were planning. They've now kind of rebranded and done something more thought out, and that's where the Safe Rest Village things come up. The issue with that location is it's kind of landlocked, and it's not an inclusive effort. They don't connect to neighbors. I've talked to many of the neighbors around there, and I think it's an issue that the board should take a, well, actually, I hate to say the board should take a position, because I really think it should be at a meeting and the community should decide what their position should be, and the board should advocate for that position. And I think the board should do outreach in that area. I've done it in the past when there were discussions about changing Beggar's Tick into something different, and I think it's something to do in the future. And it's actually quite fun to talk to our neighbors and get a sense of them and what they're going through. But effectively, I don't think that's a great location. I think there's better spots. I know Freeway Lands has a section of property that they could use to this. I don't believe city has really communicated with them. It's a lot more accessible and a lot less negative impact to the community. So that's where I sit on it. I have a bunch of thoughts on this. And I think that if you've been around with the neighborhood and you've seen this, it's a good thing to have on the board some of that historical perspective of what's been done and what worked and what didn't. And I'm happy to bring that. So thank you for the question.
All right, Sean.
Okay.
I asked you to unmute and you can answer the question or ask a question.
Yes, hi. I just from the statements there, I was just wondering, I've heard lots of people talk about how they would like to operate as board members, but I was curious to know if there's any actual topics, issues, ideas, things that people would like to actually initiate as a board member, things they would actually could give more specifics on initiatives they would take for the community as a board member and how they would see their role in different board member positions playing out and doing so. Thanks.
Thank you. Ken, did you want to answer on the Safe Rest Village?
Yeah, I'll do that, but
Or Sean's question?
yeah, on the latest question there, we have to have listening sessions to decide what the community wants specifically, what they see as a problem, and listen to everybody's different solutions, come up with a solution based on what people need and request, and vote on it and see if we can all work together to implement a solution for different issues that are going on here. In terms of the Safe Rest Village, I'm a taxpayer, and I don't like to see people housed as animals in sheds. I prefer people to have regular housing, public housing. Even vouchers can be given for hotels, but the city wants to spend $36 million on 4 sites of these Safe Rest villages, which is roughly about $9 million for a site with tough sheds. And once the sheds have been used for 2 years, they promise that they're going to have housing, but I don't see any housing even starting construction. So I don't know what's going on. I think the money can be spent directly on hotel vouchers and building public housing as needed. So the Safe Rest Village thing, I think, is patchwork, and it's not feasible in terms of having taxpayers pay for a short-term deal. Plus, what are you going to do with the tough sheds after they've been used? Are you going to burn them? Are you going to turn them into more toxic waste? I have no idea. So I'm just watching how everyone in the city and in the neighborhoods associations are spending the money. Is it being used most judiciously to forward what the neighborhood wants? And in this case here, with the Safe Rest Village, as Robert mentioned, it's built on a toxic dump site, and we don't have any services in this area locally, let alone a grocery store. What's that?
You got 1 minute, sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, that's all I've got to say. But the whole thing with the Safe Rest Villages, there has to be resources available and everything. And let's see, there's going to be an education committee at Lent School, I heard, Rest Village. So, or we could set up one, to find out what people think, because the people who are going to be most affected in the area, the people down there on Yukon and what is it, 104th in Yukon, down in that area, and they're going to be severely affected by it. So we have to hear from them and see what they think they need. That's all I got to say on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Ken. Joanna Morrill, I think you had your hand up there for a bit. You still want to?
Yeah, so I just wanted to add that I agree with a lot of the points that Ken made. And I really think it's important, before we make any decisions or say what we're going to do, that we had those listening sessions with the community, because we need, that's our role as a neighborhood association board. So I would just want to, as a board member, make sure we have those listening sessions, we get feedback from the community, and then we are able to make decisions backed by the community. And so that's all I was going to say. I think that's very important. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have anybody else with any more questions? Heck, candidates, you can probably ask each other questions too. All right, Schultz.
Thank you. While I agree with the sentiment, let's move forward and ignore the past. It's kind of a concern because I've attended the neighborhood association meetings for some, I don't know, 10 or 12 years. And at every meeting, there is typically someone coming with issues. They come with issues where they're angry about the neighborhood. They're angry that the board has or hasn't done this or that. They're angry that the board specifically didn't do or did do something. And so I think it's important to have a recognition for the operation of the board. And so I guess the question to other candidates is really about, like, how do you plan to handle that? You can't just blow people off. That's been done in the past and created a lot of anger, animosity, and driven folks away from the board and the organization. So I'm just curious with other candidates, what your thoughts are on how you're going to handle folks that are not very pleased with the history of the board.
All right, Jessica has her hand up.
Hi, I just wanted to speak to the question of the homelessness in Lentz and also the Safe Rest Village. I have done quite a bit of work with a lot of the the nonprofit organizations that work with houseless individuals. And I think it's imperative that we continue to build relationships as an organization with these nonprofits to do outreach and to make people in the neighborhood aware of the services. I think that most people in America can identify with being paycheck to paycheck and being, very close to houselessness if the circumstances and situations change with their employment, with their childcare, or with a number of other factors. And so I want to be able to advocate on behalf of the resources that are available out there so we can let people place you can go if you need clean all of these resources that somebody may not be aware of. There's people that aren't even aware, that 211 exists. And so being able to have personal relationships with people in the community and personal relationships as an organization with the nonprofits that are available to provide those resources, particularly to people in Lentz who have traditionally been left out of access to those resources, with most of those resources being focused in downtown Portland and that concentrated area. Having some of them do outreach in the Lentz neighborhood, I feel like is imperative.
Okay, so we have Joanna.
Hang on. Oh, can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can.
I just want to speak to the question that was asked about how we're going to handle people that are upset with the board and the way that the board has acted in the past. I don't have a lot of history about that, or I don't know the story. I do hear references to infighting and other things. But I would just want to, at the board meetings, try to reframe the conversation and focus on the things that we need to get done, as well as acknowledge the past. But I don't really think since we would be a new board, really a lot of time needs to be spent on that. I think we could move forward, acknowledge the past, and try to listen and move forward with the group that we have or that will be elected, and try to work together as a team. I think that working as a team is something that's very important for board members and any group. And I really look forward to being able to do that with with this group, as well as listen to the community and provide action and get some ideas from the community and action items from the community, and go forward with accomplishing some things that we need to accomplish, we need to make decisions on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Schultz?
you, Johnny.
Thank you. I wanted to touch on this issue of homelessness because, I mean, in 2017, we were titled the largest homeless camp in America. And I prefer to speak locally about what's happening in Lentz and Southeast Portland and Portland than I do what's happening in Chicago and LA, things like that, because it's the things we can actually do something about, connecting with other community groups, et cetera. And, when we were given that title, the Springwater Corridor was a massive camp. And it was intense, right? I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to be funny, but I mean, it was an intense experience to have that many people living unhoused in proximity. And this kind of thing that happened with the city where they came in and basically pitted us against each other. And we're saying, the housed don't like the houseless, which was not really what was happening. The housed didn't like the criminality, and neither did the houseless. And there was moments where it took officers to come clear an area before fire and rescue would go in and help people on the Springwater Trail. It was horrible. And there was no galvanizing effort to really change that. That happened from outside and as almost happenstance rather than from inside with neighbors coming together. Some actions did happen. The rollout of the street response team was in Lentz. That was deliberate because they're recognizing the issues we have in Lentz. Services in Lentz have been offered, and there is a large population of service-resistant people on the street in Lentz. That's the realities. The notion that we just need to give them more opportunities is not always applicable. It is sometimes. It's a very dynamic thing. Drug addiction is prevalent, heavily prevalent in Lentz specifically. The rat infestations, the rat populations is a problem that's coming on the horizon. The different like Shigella and diseases of that nature that are easily handled by washing hands were rampant and have been and are coming again. There's a lot happening when it comes to what we're talking about it, and a lot gets redirected to this conversation of what you call folks living on the street. Whether you call it a homeless camp and imply that it's like camping and there's hot dogs, or you say that it's a drug slum and you try to imply that they're just, horrible things happening. Well, I'm here to tell you, because I've walked every mile of Lentz literally, and I walk it regularly. There's people being raped in these tents. They're being abused, men and women. They're being robbed. They're being killed, murdered. There's a lot happening in our part of the.
Oops.
Did we lose Sean?
I think we lost Schultz there.
Okay, we'll get him back here. Ken, I'll let you go ahead and.
Okay, when Robert comes back, I'll just default back to him.
All righty.
Whoops, let me get my hand down. So some questions were asked about, people coming up complaining about the past, what was done, what wasn't done, etc. We've got to listen to them, and it's like the city does. The city gives people who sign up to talk before a meeting this express point of view. If they're angry or anything else, we'll try to ask them to be on their best behaviors so they're not swearing at people. But we have to listen to them. And then after we listen to them, we could ask them, what do you suggest to make things better? And if there's suggestion, we could try their suggestions if they and see if they work. So, we have to listen to everyone. It's just part of being a neighborhood association, whether we agree with them or not, or don't like the way they look or the way they talk to us. We still have to listen to them to see what's going on. And in terms of the future, there are a lot of things that need to be taken care of. Well, first is getting signing a conflict of interest form. All the board members should sign a conflict of interest form, and also a code of conduct that we all follow. and then get a bylaws committee together and work on fixing the bylaws so none of these issues repeat themselves, and just continue to listen to what the neighborhood folks have to say. And if we do that, I think everything will proceed along very, very rapidly. It's just trying to get the board back on its feet again and running efficiently. And it's going to take a couple of weeks to do that, but I think we can all do it by working together. Anyway, that's all I got to say. I'm going to mute myself. Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna let Robert come back on and finish what he was saying because he got cut off.
Hey, I appreciate that. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, little technical issues. I get a little incensed when it comes to the issue of homelessness because I do go out and actively engage. I've tried to get people off the street. I've helped successfully once or twice. It is very challenging. There's a prostitute drug addict that hangs out at the end of my block right next to 82nd, and I see her every day. I've offered numerous times, many people in our community, in fact, I think folks from other groups have even tried to help her, and she is service resistant to the extreme. If she's found unconscious, she wakes up and says, "Get away from me," and there's an obligation by fire and medical to walk away from her, leaving her in this neighborhood. It's particularly tragic, and there's no reasonable laws to enforce on her or any of that stuff. There's no services that we can offer that she'll avail herself of because she's deeply steeped in her addiction. And I see this a lot. I see as well people that are just trying to survive, and they did get flushed out through rent increases and job loss or whatever. It's a very, very tricky thing. I don't know that all the organizations that we have available to us necessarily can handle these issues. And I don't feel like the city can necessarily handle these issues, but we all have to keep trying. And so when someone talks about, let's bring more services and things, I'm 100% on board. I want to help do that. It is very dynamic, very challenging. The neighborhood association has a role, but it's hard to define. And it really requires what Ken speaks to, the organization functioning effectively and having clear rules, and then listening to the people to see what they want to do with it and where those great ideas come from that can help address these specifically. And thank you for letting me circle back on this.
Not a problem. All right, Shar.
Hello, I just want to support what Schultz was saying because I don't know how many people here that are running for board seat fully understand what the Safe Rest Village is about. And I just want them to be knowledgeable. I've got a lot of emails because I was in a group of neighborhood associations that were working on a good neighborhood agreement, which is not a binding legal document. And it made me kind of back out of it because it is not up to the city how these Safe Rest Villages are going to be run. It is up to the Joint Office of Homeless Service and the service provider, which at this point for our Safe Rest Village hasn't even been appointed yet. So we don't even know who our nonprofit that is running ours is and what kind of criteria or guidelines they are going to implement on our Safe Rest Village. I think it's very important that once this board gets elected to start focusing on that, because this could be very detrimental to that part of the neighborhood.
Thank you, Jar. And yeah, I personally, I agree with you. The homelessness and all the resources and everything happening around that. It's one of the reasons why it's so important to me to make sure that we have a functioning board and neighborhood association.
Mine as well. I have a daughter she's been on drugs. I've tried to help get her into treatment. I've taken her to services. I'm just going to keep going out there and helping her and the people that are in her camp. And hopefully, homelessness is really big because right now I'm raising her daughter because she's not making good choices. So my goal is to get her and the people that services so they can get their lives going again.
Thanks, Topher. All right. Wait, Joanna, I thought, did you have your hand up for a bit? Did you have a comment?
Yeah, well, it was just more of a comment. I wasn't, in my previous statement, I was not saying we totally ignore the past. I was saying
Oh.
we should definitely listen to people and acknowledge it, and also move forward and try to get things done. So acknowledging to me means recognizing that that happened and handling it and then moving forward.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else? Raise your hand if you have any other questions or statements you'd like to make. Phil.
I know I've been talking a lot and I appreciate that. And, you know, happy to hear some of the voices that we haven't heard from. In fact, if I were facilitating, I would try to manipulate things to make that happen. I'm in the East Portland Action Plan. We're a consensus-based, our operations are based on consensus. I'm co-chair of grants and host meetings all the time there. I'm involved in the scouting program, and we have a very large troop. I'm involved in hosting meetings and facilitating things there. So this forum where people bring common concerns, like with the Safe Rest Village, is exactly what the neighborhood association should be engaged in. Hearing community members like Shar or board members that have theirs, like Ken, their experiences. And that is, to me, the greatest value of the neighborhood association, is that you have neighbors speaking about things they observe by talking to their neighbors or coming to speak to the board, so that we can carry that to the city. The city in the city of Portland listens to neighborhood associations with an undue amount of attention. And I say that as in, they'll ignore select community groups, but listen to a neighborhood association, and oftentimes it can be the same exact people. And I think we can use that voice to our betterment if we are looking at our membership as the drivers of that voice. That's a big thing for me, and it sounds like it's a big thing for Ken and some of the others. And I think that makes a great team if that is our focus. So thank you, everybody.
All right, thank you, Phil. Joanna?
I just want to add, as far as the Safe Rest Village goes, because I have not commented on that yet, I think that as a team, we would need to get all of the information and all of the details on it and hear from community members and really do our due diligence and our research. And I also, and then move forward with making a decision and voting. And I also agree with what Jessica was saying as far as having the community, having a resource or list of resources for the community as a neighborhood association, and building relationships with the community and organizations in our community. I think that's very important. And so that's what I would try to do as a neighborhood association member. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Joanna. And Jessica.
2 points I wanted to make, actually. I just wanted to kind of piggyback off of what Joanna was saying as well. And I think it's also imperative that we put a list together of the local businesses and other resources that we could patronize, whether it was like a Google spreadsheet where we could have that accessible on the Lentz Neighborhood Association website, where it says, you know, here's a place you can go for a landscaper, a dog walker, a haircut, just to patronize and support the local businesses, and to, in the spirit of camaraderie, in the spirit of, you know, supporting each other. I think it would be really good to kind of focus on the positives, because unfortunately, I think that people do come to the Lentz Neighborhood Association, and not just the Lentz Neighborhood Association, like this happens in any sort of, I guess, political forum or whatever place I guess even social media, where people feel like they can voice their complaints, they use that as a podium to talk about the things they don't like. And while I do think that it's good for people to voice their concerns where they feel they have room for improvement, I think it's also important for us to not just make it a soapbox for people to tear down all of the things that they think are bad and wrong about Lentz. We all have eyes, we all have ears, we can see what's going on. We just have to kind of pull together and say, hey, this is what we can do to make things better. These are the things that we can support. These are the things we can put our dollars behind. These are the things that we can do in small ways or big ways to all contribute to seeing a better community. And I think that we don't have enough of that. And if we could pull into each other in that way, I think that would be something that would really uplift the community tremendously. And it's something that's a simple thing that we could do, just, you know, a Google spreadsheet or something like that right on the Lentz Neighborhood Association website, where we're like, hey, you know, these are our local businesses, check out this guy or that guy, and or woman, not to discriminate in that way, but whoever that, you know, we could support. I think that would be phenomenal. One comment, sorry, but I want to say this. I am one of, we are the only people that are actually running against each other, and that's for the position of chair. I think that everything that I've heard Schultz say, not just at this meeting, but we had got on another Zoom call a couple days ago. And I think that Schultz, you're incredibly well-spoken. You seem to have a long history with the Lentz Neighborhood Association. And I think that, regardless whoever gets the position of chair, I hope that we're able to both be involved in some capacity, because I think that we both have excellent qualities that we could add. Me being, you know, new and having a fresh set of eyes and a fresh perspective, and you having that history and that experience. I think that we both have excellent things that we could add to this board.
Thank you, Jessica. Time is up. Thank you so much. And all right.
So just to respond, Jessica, I think we absolutely should have room for everybody on the board, and you know, gentle person's agreement. If I make it and you don't, I think the first order of the board is to appoint you. And if you make it and I don't, my hope is it's similar. I think in that way we can get the best out of everyone. It's hard. It's hard when you run against somebody and you're like, man, I like what they said about this. Man, I like what they said about that. It just becomes very challenging. I've been around the board enough that I feel like, you know, there's so much given to the chair position that is not necessarily, that should not necessarily be the chair's position, that there should be a drive from whoever's chair to collaborate. And I've not seen that in many, many years. I don't think ever, the true drive to collaborate as a team. And so that's what I want to bring. I certainly, you know, I can be well-spoken. I can be radically opposed to things that happen. I can be very loud about that. I think that is the role of community members. When you're not on the board, you have a different thing. I've been criticized for getting a little too strongly worded. Was that fairly criticized? Sure. I've been direct and intense and relentless on my condemnation of behaviors that I felt were ethically wrong. But that is also my strength. I have a very strong sense of ethics and what should or shouldn't be done. And when you're in the role of chair, it is my view that you honor that you're chair, you're not the boss, you're not the dictator, you're the leader, but only in the sense that you're trying to bring everybody in the same direction, right? It's more like being the head of the oarsman, right? You're saying everybody row to the same direction. You're not saying you must row faster unless it's to the group. So that's where my head comes about this. And so I appreciate your comment and reciprocate. I believe it's only reasonable that everybody gets a seat on the board when there's 10 of us that show up, and there's 13 seats. You know, it's debatable on if some of the at-large seats are warranted or not, but I agree with you. So.
All right. Anybody else have any further comments or questions? I think both Char and Sean have. I think everybody else is actually a current board member or a candidate. So, I think this is probably going to wrap things up. Thank you, everybody. I really enjoyed this. I hope everyone did too. I look forward to what happens with the election. And if nobody has anything else, hopefully I won't say too many more times. Oh, Schultz. Okay, go ahead.
Do you want to give everybody like a minute to do a closing statement? Would that be
Yes.
appropriate?
Yes, I agree. We should give them a closing statement.
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
And I can, since I've talked a lot, I can start and keep it brief. I appreciate everybody that showed up, but I also appreciate the folks that later review this on YouTube. I missed one of the previous meetings and I found a lot of interesting information in that. I noted how much several positions Ken had on issues about financial responsibility. I totally agree. Listening, totally agree. Ethics of it, I totally agree. Anytime anybody says this should be an ethical organization, I'm absolutely 100%. I think that the bylaws need to be changed. I think we need to kind of reset the table of the board and the organization so that we can better do these very same things. And I don't think that needs to be 6 months. I don't think it needs to be 600 hours. I think it needs to be like 5 to 10 hours with a big push to engage community and then change the landscape that we operate on so that we can better address the needs of our community. Most of the neighborhood associations across the city don't necessarily employ the civic life best practices or some of the other resources from like the other coalition hubs. I think we could easily do that. We can roll those things together and have a pretty easy we can pretty easily address the concerns of the past by handling the concerns of the future, changing the bylaws so they best meet these things that again, I agree with Ken. Oh, sorry, thank you for that.
All right, Jessica.
Thank you.
I just wanted to thank everybody for their time and their willingness to participate in this. And I think that if we all continue in the spirit of wanting to make the Lentz neighborhood a better, safer place to increase our social equity and the equity of our homes and our community overall, I think that we will continue to be on the right track. I just want to thank everybody for taking the time to listen to the points that I made and thank everybody for taking the time to look into participating in their local elections. Local elections matter, local voting matters, and I think that in the spirit of just continuing to move things onward and upward and moving forward, I look forward to working with you guys all and collaborating with you guys all to see what a difference we can make.
All righty.
Joanna?
I'm going to keep mine short and sweet, but I just wanted to thank everyone for listening to my points as well and to everybody's points. Also, I wanted to talk a little bit about working together as a team. As vice chair, I would try to hear all of the board members and come up with solutions and ways for us to work together as a team, as far as, if that means rewriting the bylaws like Schultz mentioned or Ken mentioned, and organizing ourselves in a way that so we function better. That's something that I'm all for. And I'm also just really excited to have a neighborhood association in Lentz. I think it's something that we've needed over the past few years, and I'm really excited to have a place for the neighbors and the community to talk. So I just wanted to say thank you all for listening to me, and I hope to be on the board and serve the community in the future. Thanks.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Joanna.
Joanna.
Ken?
I'd like to say thank you for everybody attending and participating. And I'm looking forward to working with everybody and be nice to see everybody in person at a meeting and even more people. So till then, I'll see you later. And thank you very much.
Let's see what we got.
Mary,
Mary?
you want to give a closing statement?
Yes, Mary Oxford, I appreciate the views and thoughts of the other people running for office, and I look forward to meeting with them to get the LNA back on track and working to fix the bylaws and help the community to have projects that help Lentz members improve life in our community and getting to know people again and working with the Lentz Association. Thank you.
All right, Nancy?
Hi, I'm Nancy and I'm running for secretary, and I think it would be great if we could get the LNA up and running in a healthy and safety way to help our community in a healthy and safe way. And that's what I think. Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Thank you, Nancy. All right, I think that's it. This has been our candidate forum for the upcoming May 24th special board election, and I thank you all for attending. Have a good evening.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Night.